Welcome to the Deep Dive Books channel, where we hope you find something valuable every day.
We continue interpreting Malcolm Gladwell's Revenge of the Tipping Point. This is the second part of our interpretation. Imagine a high school, where every student is very hardworking, and determined to attend the best universities. And they are all exceptional. Not only are their academic achievements impressive, but they excel in sports, extracurricular activities, and much more. You probably guess that this is an American high school, but Chinese parents would easily understand the spirit here. This school is actually highly competitive, and it's competing on multiple fronts at the same time. For example, if you are part of the school's speed skating team, it's not enough to just casually say, "I enjoy ice skating." You must at least place in state-level competitions to live up to the school's expectations. If you claim you have no athletic ability and want to focus solely on studying, that's fine, but you must still be a popular person among your peers and exhibit leadership skills. If you want to be the rebellious type, presenting yourself as an angry, stubborn rock punk, that's also acceptable. But your academic performance must still be excellent. Only academically strong punks get into top universities. In short, you can be exceptional in your own way, but your excellence must align with the school's overstory. Would you want to send your child to such a high school? Or if you were a high school student, would you want to study in such a school? My wife and I have long since demystified this kind of school. Both of our children attend regular public schools, which are great because there's no excessive competition, just like when I was growing up. After reading Gladwell's book, I am even more certain about this choice. The story in this chapter might seem a bit dark, but I promise you a hopeful conclusion. Gladwell's insight is that social trends are not universal. They are strongly expressed in specific regions. A fascinating example comes from the field of medicine, known as small area variation, meaning that in two neighboring areas, the treatment methods that doctors use for patients may differ significantly. For example, for a common pediatric condition like tonsillitis, some doctors might opt to perform surgery to remove the tonsils, while others may choose conservative treatments and leave the tonsils intact. After all, tonsils aren't useless. They contain a lot of immune cells and help filter pathogens entering the respiratory tract, as well as balance the microbial flora in the mouth and throat. So, when would a doctor choose to remove the tonsils, and when would they choose to keep them? A series of studies shows that this decision has nothing to do with the patient's condition, the patient's preferences, or the doctor's personality, skill level, or where they were trained. It's related to the region where the hospital is located. In two neighboring school districts, where all other factors are nearly the same, one area has 70% of children getting their tonsils removed before the age of 15, while in the other area, only 20% of children undergo the procedure. This is the effect of the overstory. It's the medical culture of that particular area. Another example, when a patient suffers a heart attack, should a cardiac catheter be used for examination? In Boulder, Colorado, 75.3% of doctors would choose to use it, whereas in Buffalo, New York, only 23.6% would. Researchers then asked an interesting question. If a doctor from Boulder moved to Buffalo, would they maintain their usual practice or adapt to the local norms? The answer is that they would quickly adapt, reducing the use of cardiac catheters to align with Buffalo's practice. Another example of small area variation. During the last 2 years of a patient's life, how many times do doctors see them? In 2019, the national average in the U.S. was 54 visits, with the lowest being in Minneapolis, 36 visits, and the highest in Los Angeles, 105 visits. Are patients in Minneapolis stronger? Does Los Angeles have better healthcare? Researchers examined various factors, and none of these were the cause. Small area variation isn't about what the patients want. It's about what doctors choose to do. It reflects the shared identity and practices among doctors in a given region. It's driven by the overstory of each location. You'll unconsciously align with those around you. Here's a clue about how the overstory specifically influences behavior. All scientific research tells you that children should regularly receive vaccinations as they age. However, as we've mentioned on this channel before, some people in the US don't trust science, and refused to vaccinate their children, leading to various problems. I used to think that these vaccine-refusing parents were mostly less educated, but Gladwell's findings are actually the opposite. In the mid-2010s, California experienced 2 measles outbreaks. This sparked many discussions about whether California was being affected by anti-vaccine sentiments. The outbreaks were indeed caused by parents refusing vaccinations. But those children were not randomly distributed across schools, nor were they concentrated in the worst-performing schools. Instead, they were concentrated in a few of the best schools. Gladwell lists the vaccination rates of private schools around San Francisco, and nearly all schools had a 100% vaccination rate. Except for a small group of schools, all Waldorf schools, where vaccination rates were only 20 to 40%. Waldorf is a private education chain with a philosophy you might admire. It fosters children's free spirit, moral responsibility, and advanced social skills, aiming to develop well-rounded individuals, rather than just academic performers. In early childhood education, Waldorf emphasizes hands-on activities and creative play. In elementary school, it focuses on developing artistic and social talents, with an emphasis on innovation and problem-solving skills. In high school, the focus is on critical thinking and ideals. Parents of Waldorf children strongly embrace these ideas. Statistics show that, if your first child attends a Waldorf school, you are very likely to send your second child there as well. The longer you stay at Waldorf, the prouder you become of it. Parents say, Waldorf not only teaches you how to learn, but also how to want to learn. It sparks curiosity in children and makes them eager to learn. There's no rote memorization here. Waldorf helps children not only have the ability to find answers, but also the desire to seek them. The school says, our children are independent thinkers, filled with confidence. A Waldorf graduate can rise in any part of the world. Waldorf's overstory is a hero complex. Our children are different from others. We make our own judgments. We don't just follow what the so-called experts say. I think what Gladwell means is that parents at Waldorf schools don't necessarily reject vaccines outright. As high-quality parents, surrounded by equally high-quality family, friends, colleagues, and doctors, they certainly hear about the benefits of vaccines and understand the reasoning. The deeper reason Waldorf parents choose not to vaccinate their children might include wanting their children to experience some hardship. For instance, a 5-year-old child contracts chickenpox, and the parents say, you need to overcome this. The child's skin becomes ulcerated, and they contract shingles. The parents still refuse the vaccine, and the child then contracts whooping cough. In a Waldorf school, if one child falls ill, many other children will get sick as well. Waldorf schools are a significant source of contagious diseases in California. Yet parents are willing to accept this risk. Because this is Waldorf. If refusing vaccines is a hero complex, I think that's not quite right. Heroes should be unique, but Waldorf parents are not that different from the other schools. They are highly similar to others in the same school. Everyone else isn't vaccinating, so I'm not vaccinating either, because I want to fit into the Waldorf culture. Isn't this also a form of conformity? A better example is the high school we mentioned at the beginning of this chapter. Gladwell doesn't reveal its real name or location, using a researcher's code name, Poplar Grove High School. Poplar Grove is an affluent community in the U.S. known not only for its wealth, but also for its excellence. Every parent has a job. They aren't people who made a lot of money and moved there to retire. Most are involved in the IT industry, graduated from prestigious universities, and are exceptionally intelligent. We've mentioned before on this channel that the best things parents can give their children are genetic inheritance and living in an excellent community. Good neighbors are the best role models for children. Poplar Grove has achieved this perfectly. The neighborhood relationships are very close, and every child knows the parents on their street. For example, if you get injured, you don't have to go home. Just knock on any door, and help will be given. Poplar Grove High School is one of the best high schools in the state. Whenever there's a state sports competition, they are basically champions. Even their drama productions are exceptional. They offer a full range of advanced placement (AP) courses, with the best teaching staff. Students chat in the halls about how many AP courses they've chosen, and which sports teams they're joining. Excellence is the overstory of Poplar Grove. But nearly every year, a student dies by suicide. Is it because the competition is too intense? Yes. At Poplar Grove High School, all students place a tremendous emphasis on exam results. If a student gets a B, not only does the student feel anxious, but their parents will immediately call the teacher, saying, "You can't give my child a B." It will ruin their chances of getting into an Ivy League school. However, in Malcolm Gladwell's view, the core problem at Poplar Grove High School isn't the academic pressure itself, but the fact that all the students there are essentially cut from the same mold. If you attended high school in the US before the 1990s, schools truly had all kinds of students. Some loved school, others hated it. Some were loud, others were quiet. Different types of students formed their own groups, so no matter what kind of person you were, you could find peers like yourself. In academic terms, this is called diversity. Diversity provides antifragility and resilience. When a trend sweeps through, like a contagious disease, the varied responses within the group, some embracing it, others rejecting it, make it harder for the trend to dominate. Similarly, if a student feels overwhelmed by academic pressure, seeing classmates who don't care much about grades can make them feel better. Struggling with homework? A friend might invite you to play video games, and suddenly the stress feels less unbearable. But Poplar Grove High School lacks this diversity. Its students are remarkably uniform, all striving hard. This uniformity makes it easier to achieve high grades, but also makes the school exceptionally fragile, vulnerable to crises. This fragility is evident when one student dies by suicide. Others are likely to follow suit. At Poplar Grove, there's only one dominant value. Poor grades equal a dead end. Students have no alternative means to cope with their pain. This practice of concentrating a single type of individual in one place is known in biology as monoculture. For example, planting only one kind of crop in a field. The advantage of monoculture is efficiency, but the downside is fragility. An intriguing fact from the book is that the US is currently facing extinction crises for cheetahs and panthers. Both animals are incredibly beautiful, fast, and lethal predators, often regarded as symbols of American wildlife. Yet, they are teetering on the brink of extinction. Around 12,000 years ago, Earth experienced a mass extinction of mammals. Creatures like saber-toothed tigers, mammoths, mastodons, and giant ground sloths vanished, possibly due to human activity. Fortunately, a small number of cheetahs and panthers survived. In the case of cheetahs, it's believed that perhaps only one female survived. She gave birth to a few cubs, which were forced into inbreeding. As a result, all modern cheetahs share nearly identical genes, to the extent that they can accept skin grafts from one another without rejection. This genetic similarity makes cheetahs in zoos extremely susceptible to diseases, which can decimate entire populations. Inbreeding has also significantly impaired their reproductive health, with 90% of male cheetah sperm being defective. Panthers are even worse off, having faced multiple near-extinction events. Male Florida panthers now exhibit almost complete infertility. Some don't even develop testes. To address this, conservationists introduced a few Texas cougars to interbreed with the panthers. While this diluted the panthers' pure bloodline, it was the only way to ensure their survival. The results were remarkable. The Florida panther population grew from a few dozen to over 100, and the animals became healthier and stronger. Monoculture equals fragility. Isn't the same true for humans? Gladwell suggests that to solve the issues, at Poplar Grove High School, the school should be dismantled, and its students and teachers dispersed to nearby high schools. This would undoubtedly benefit the students, at the cost of eliminating an elite institution. However, Gladwell is keenly aware that the parents at Poplar Grove would never agree to this. They may acknowledge the importance of mental health, but they would insist that the school's resources be directed toward more advanced courses and extracurricular activities. When you're part of a overstory, you can't easily step outside of it. Viewed in this light, the real heroic choice would be to attend a diverse school. A place where people of all backgrounds, abilities, personalities, and interests coexist. After all, if everyone in the room is there to learn leadership, you won't truly learn leadership. Because there's no one left to lead. Even Waldorf schools might have a similar issue. A monocultural environment won't produce individuals who can thrive anywhere. True adaptability comes from being randomly placed somewhere in the first place. That's it for today's content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.